Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast, presented by Strategic Treasurer, your source for interesting Treasury news, analysis, and insights in your car, at the gym, or wherever you decide to tune in.
Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast. I'm your host, Craig Jeffery. This is part of the 2026 Outlook series. I'm here with Stephane from Jiko. Stephane, welcome to the podcast.
Craig, thanks for having me.
On this series, we ask just a couple of simple questions. The first one, Stephane, is what are the top three trends, predictions, or developments you expect in 2026? Or you can combine that with three things to be watchful or concerned about in 2026. So you've got a free rein, but you can pick up to three.
Well, I think obviously within the context of the Treasury world, I would say, based on everything we're hearing, there's a lot of focus on how AI can change Treasury. We're not too close to that because we're providing a very different type of service. But I think AI will be important for helping flows and try to simplify the operations within the finance world. So I'm sure that's what everyone else will be talking about. A second one would be stablecoin and blockchain adoption. The scale at which it will happen is to be determined within the Treasury world, but there's certainly stablecoins are being institutionalized. We're seeing more of that coming, and so that's going to be a very fascinating area to explore how real-time settlements using blockchain on-off chain transactions will happen. We're certainly very involved in that, and it's very exciting and brings efficiencies to the market. And the third one, though, on a defensive side, I would say is the risk of the economy running too hot. There's a lot of cash being pumped in the system, valuations on many stocks going to historical levels, and while none of us hope it, there's always the risk of some corrections, and with that, as a treasurer, the necessity to manage your risks and not just embrace the latest stuff, but really think about your overall risk footprint across everything you do.
Those are the three areas to be concerned about, or predictions. And then what recommendation or advice, what would be the top thing that you recommend for corporate treasurers as we head into 2026?
Okay, I'm naturally, coming from risk, I would understand what you're doing. So that's the rule. Whether you have cash at a bank, what's the bank's rating? What is the bank doing? If you have cash in a money market fund, what is the fund holding? So, but that applies to you using an AI tool. Do you know what it's doing? Is it going to hallucinate or not? Some are really strong, but you have to understand what you're using. And if you don't, my advice would be don't use it and wait a little longer until you or people around you understand it, because risk always comes from where you don't expect it. So, and especially from areas you don't understand. So I would err on the side of caution and minimize your overall footprint of things you do, tools you use, and stay very focused.
Even if your peers are using it, and if you don't understand your peers are using it, that's not a good reason, right?
Yeah, that would be my philosophy. Yes.
Well, the last thing is if you could say your name and the company website.
Sure. My name is Stephane Lintner. I'm the CEO of Jiko. Our website is jiko.com, Jiko.
Thank you so much, Stephane. I'm Craig Jeffery, your host today, and I'm joined by Michel D'Abranches. Michel, welcome to the Treasury Update podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today. That's a great topic. Thanks so much, Craig, to have me here.
Great. So I want to start off. This is the same question I ask everybody. What are the top three, and these can be trends, predictions, or developments that you expect to happen in 2026, or three things or some combination of three things that you might suggest people are watchful or that you're concerned about as we head into 2026?
That's perfect. Thanks so much for asking that. So based on our discussion with the treasurers, I would say three things. First, and of course the most important thing, liquidity is still remain a strategic priority. Even if the rates begin to normalize, treasurers will continue to operate in an environment shaped by uncertainty. So all the geopolitical risks, supply chain reconfiguration, those kind of things will continue to happen. So as a result, we expect the treasury will increasingly be expected to unlock liquidity from working capital. So not just managing debt, cash, or credit facilities. That's the first topic. And second point is working capital and supply chain finance programs will become more dynamic and market driven, I mean. So there are a lot of clients we are talking, they use today what they call static rate or single funder model. Because of the liquidity, they are talking about showing better limit credit and connected to more suppliers. So in terms of average, we see 7 to 12% suppliers connected to their program. So they want to increase that because a lot of more innovative suppliers, they need more support on the liquidity. So, and because of that, they need different ways in terms of static discount to have a better support. And third topic, which is I call transparency, structure, and governance, because we see a lot of disclosure requirements and increased scrutiny, as we noticed this year in terms of problems with the SPV, those kind of things, etc. A lot of clients they don't have a great credit specifically. They say they don't have any support, but they should do. So make sure they have the best information internally and they can continue to get the best documentation for the audit, but making sure they are connected to the best secure perspective as well. So those are the three priorities we are seeing for next year.
Excellent. Yeah. Maybe you could just explain what your role is and the company you're with.
So that's perfect. I'm head of the company here in US. We are Monkey Tech. So we are basically a marketplace that connect multi-fundings one side on the marketplace with the corporates, ERPs. We connected ERPs from the client to this marketplace. So we do a hybrid mode for account receivables and account payable. But instead of using any SPVs or any payment solution, we're very transparent on that. So everything payment and credit happens outside of our platform. So in terms of the bank, we provide an auction-based model to get the best interest rate. So every client, low credit or high credit, they have support from us. And also we take care with all the suppliers that the client needs. So the procurement love to talk to us because we can help them on that as well.
Okay. And what's the website address?
monkeytech.com.
monkeytech.com.
That's right.
All right. We'll put it in the show notes. Now the last question is, what recommendation or piece of advice do you have for corporate treasurers as we begin 2026? And it could build on one of the trends or directions that you talked about, or it could be something different.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little different to support that. I would say my advice for treasurers is to make sure their role is to be more a strategic connector. And I mean, connector is about sometimes the CFO talk to them, provide that better liquidity, better cash flow, and they focus on that. But I mean, connector, especially with the procurement teams, we are talking to many procurements. They are not really connected to the treasurers in terms of what we're going to do in terms of discounting or pricing with the suppliers. Can you work together? And I understand treasurers is a great role to be a connector of that, connecting procurement and CFOs. That's our advice, to make sure the incentives and all the trade-offs connecting from the supplier to the cash flows will be connecting between the treasurers and the procurement. That's our advice for treasurer next year.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michel. Really appreciate your comments.
Absolutely. Happy to talk to you all the time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This episode is part of the series on the 2026 Outlook, and I'm with Leo Gil from Bottomline Technologies. Welcome to the podcast, Leo.
Hey, Craig. How are you?
So we have two questions. The first one is, you can list up the 3 trends, predictions, development, or things that you want to be watchful or concerned about for 2026, whether it's expected or unexpected. So you can pick from any of those. It could be all in one category or across the board. If you get to pick 3 and give a little bit of a rationale for those, for your choice.
Yeah, sure. So number one for 2026, really see a big trend on the exponential adoption of AI, as it's becoming very mainstream across consumer. Lots of companies are using Copilot internally, using for, just different functions, I see the treasury function really adopting and accelerating the use of AI within their internal and external applications as well. Number two is, I see really a ramp up in what you and I like to say as, treasurers becoming superintendents of payments. It's really has been a big shift in recent, years as Treasury is getting more and more involved in the payment workflows and understanding the opportunities they can derive from managing payments closely, from a liquidity perspective, from accelerating potentially helping accelerate collections and driving more money into the organization from an accounts receivable side, but also getting a little bit more control over payments that are getting made and outbound payments from the organization. So I see that shift really happening, and it's going to ramp up in the next year. And the third one, which has been top of mind and really a discussion we've been having a lot recently, especially here in North America, is Nacho 2026, right? Lots of new requirements around payment security. As Treasury becomes more involved in payments, with more power comes more responsibility. And fraud is really a key component, and fraud prevention is really a key component of that, where we see really the ramp up of treasurers asking more questions about, even if they are not fully affected by the regulation, the Nacho 2026 regulation, but in a lot of ways understanding that the fraud prevention measures that are part of the regulation can help the organizations prevent fraud, right? So, we see a lot of that, a lot of interest, and will be a big year for us and a lot of work across the industry to make sure not only compliant with the regulations, but also looking at a more holistic way how to prevent fraud.
That's excellent, and there's a lot of changes on different payment rails to protect the entire rail. So those were three great examples. Leo, can you introduce yourself, your company, and give us the website address that people could find more about Bottomline?
Sure. So my name is Leo Gil. I'm a head of product for products we have at Bottomline we call the Global Cash Management and Global Payments Hub, which are products directed to corporates for the corporate treasury function and the payments function in organizations. Our website is www.bottomline.com.
That's super easy. Thank you so much. So the last question, and this can follow one of the three things you talked about, whether it's AI or superintendent payments or any of those, or it could be something different. So this is, what recommendation or piece of advice do you have for corporate treasurers for 2026?
Yeah, I think 2026 can be, and all of these requirements from payments and all of these changes in adoption of AI, everything I'm talking about can be a little bit overwhelming, right? To a lot of treasurers, a lot of organizations of different sizes. They may be scrambling to think, how I'm going to allocate resources and capital and to be able to advance the organization, to leverage AI tools and to be compliant with payments. I would say my big recommendation is to take a step back and start simple, right? So you look from a simplicity, look at the tools you currently have, how your banking relationships are in place, what kinds of investments are you already making or planning to make in order to get to a much better outcome in a year. But focus on simplicity, usability, right? Don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to make a big project, because that's the outcome. With all of the changes, with all these rapid changes, is can be a big challenge and potentially a negative outcome at the end of the year.
Leo, thank you so much for your recommendation and advice for treasurers, as well as the three trends, predictions, and developments that are happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. Great to be here.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Treasury Update podcast. Be sure to follow Strategic Treasurer on LinkedIn. Just search for Strategic Treasurer. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.